2019 national and provincial elections were precisely about that, determining the political will of the South African people. Tonight, it's a final step of a journey which began more than 2 years ago. Indeed, it has been a journey of twists and turns, a journey of ups and downs, a journey punctuated by political maturity on the one hand and intense contestation on the other. It has been a journey that has been proudly traversed by the indomitable staff of the Electoral Commission and the tens of thousands of volunteers who have once again made South Africa proud. Our eternal gratitude and thanks to every one of you for your hard work, dedication, professionalism, and above all, for your integrity. In this regard, I want to acknowledge especially the Executive Committee of the institution, my team in ESCO, the provincial electoral officers, members of MENCO, and indeed all our staff, both in head office, provincial offices, as well as municipal offices. Without your sterling contribution, this project would have been impossible. But the Electoral Commission alone did not deliver this election. Our journey to tonight's announcement has been traveled with many partners along the way. Political parties, government, civil society, the media, the international community, observers, and of course, the people and the voters of South Africa. To all of you, we offer our deepest gratitude and appreciation for the support and cooperation in delivering our country's 6th national and provincial elections. Fellow South Africans, 25 years and 10 days after our first democratic elections, the people of South Africa have once again come together in their millions to participate in democratic elections and to affirm our belief in a united, democratic, and peaceful South Africa. Once again, we have shown the world that despite our differences and challenges, we still unite under a vision of a common destiny for our country as a democratic, free, just, and equal society. These elections are without prevarication the most complex, highly contested, and logistically demanding in our history as a country and as an institution. They have tested all of us like never before. The Electoral Commission, political parties, the media, government, security agencies, and indeed our people throughout the country. Nonetheless, and despite these challenges, it is our incontrovertible belief we have all come through this election even stronger as an institution. We have come through this election even stronger as a people. We have come through this election even stronger as a country. As the Electoral Commission, we have learned that there is always scope for evolution in systems, people, and processes. Indeed, each and every aspect of elections is under the most intense scrutiny, not only by party agents, observers, and the media, but also by ordinary citizens and voters. Armed with cell phones, cameras, and videos, and linked to social media platforms, they have added a layer of oversight and monitoring that can only serve to enhance the quality and integrity of future elections. We have also learned that the exponential increase in the number of political parties presents the voter with a great choice, whilst at the same time presenting challenges for electoral operations. This increase has most certainly added to the vibrancy and plurality of political opinion and has given voters more choice than ever before. That, I think, is a multi-party democracy in action. But it has also presented the Electoral Commission with a variety of challenges, including significantly increased costs for printing, transport, and logistics relating to ballot papers and ballot boxes. It has also presented us with challenges of space in voting stations and indeed here at the Results Operation Center. It has also meant a long and rather cumbersome ballot paper for voters, which has increased the time taken for counting and results collation. Distinguished guests, media reports over the past few days have focused on a particularly negative discourse, highlighting isolated cases where our systems, processes, and people may have not worked perfectly. But there is another discourse, a lesser-told story of 18 million voters who were assisted to vote honestly, quickly, and easily. A story of voters who climbed mountains and crossed rivers to cast their ballots in pursuit of an ideal to participate in the process of determining the political will of the people. A story of election officials who, through their dedication and passion for our electoral democracy and country, worked night and day to ensure a free and fair election and the rapid collation of results. It is a story of a nascent democratic nation continuing to move forward and defying odds. This is a story borne out by observer missions from South Africa and around the world, which unanimously endorsed these elections as free and fair. It is a story borne out by the Human Research Sciences Council on Voter Experience Survey, which made the following findings. 97% of sampled voters found the voting procedures inside the voting station easy to understand. 96% of sampled voters feel that the election procedures were free and fair. 96% of voters voiced general satisfaction with the quality of services rendered by the IEC officials to voters. 3% expressing a neutral position and 1% dissatisfied. 68% of voters took less than 15 minutes to reach their voting stations, and on average, 16 minutes in the queue before voting. 88% of voters found voting stations easily accessible to persons with disabilities and the elderly, while 6% did not. It is a story borne out by analysts, observers, and commentators who have not seen isolated problems, but widespread celebration and affirmation of electoral democracy in action in our country. Ladies and gentlemen, each election presents us all with yet a standard test for electoral democracy. Tonight, we can proudly proclaim as a nation that our democracy has once again withstood this examination and continues to endure with strength and fortitude. This is a tribute to the founding mothers and fathers of our democracy, who put in place a constitution grounded in democracy and the rule of law. It is a tribute to the founding mothers and fathers of the Electoral Commission, who put in place an electoral process which is transparent, inclusive, credible, and highly resilient. It is a tribute to political parties and their leaders and contestants who have respected the Constitution, the electoral laws, and regulations to fight hard but fair. And ultimately, it is a tribute to the people of South Africa who, having tasted democracy just 25 years ago, continue to display an unquenchable hunger for democracy, justice, and freedom for all. After all, the people have recorded their political will, which will soon be declared by the chairperson. To every person who participated, supported, worked, assisted, and voted in these elections, we say, Exe, thank you. Nkosi, raleboga, danki, ngiyathokoza. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO. Thank you very much. These are the reflections of a man who has not known much sleep for months on end, who has led his team valiantly, and his team continued to support him. I thank you very much. It gives me great pleasure to invite the chairperson of the Electoral Commission to discharge a constitutional duty that the Commission has. I invite him to come here and announce the results of these elections of 2019. Chairperson.
Thank you, Program Director. It is indeed a great honor to stand before you today, Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, the Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa, His Excellency, the former President of United Republic of Tanzania, Mr. Kikwete, the Speaker of Parliament, Ms. Mbete, and the Deputy Speaker, Sinoli, fellow commissioners, as already acknowledged by the previous speaker, ministers and deputy ministers present here, honorable leaders and representatives of the political parties, chairpersons and members of the fellow Chapter 9 institutions present, members of the judiciary present, high commissioners, ambassadors, members of the diplomatic corps, Islabani Kulube, our chief electoral officer, Mr. Mamabulo, and fellow members of his EXCO, our provincial electoral officers, Ibuto Elngalambati, members of the domestic and international observer missions that have graced this auspicious occasion, traditional leaders, international members of civil society, members of the NGOs, representatives of the faith-based organizations present here, members of the organized labor, as well as the business community who have joined us here, members of the Fourth Estate, our media, the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the team, the mighty team that is here in front of you, that constitutes the Electoral Commission, it is indeed an honor to welcome you all for the announcement of the results of the 2019 national and provincial elections. The Constitution of our country, in its founding provisions, commits us as a nation to, I quote, universal adult suffrage, national common voters' roll, regular elections,
and multi-party system of democratic government. And yes, we had our share of multi-party contesting this round. It then establishes the Electoral Commission and mandates it to carry out very simple tasks: to manage the elections, ensure the elections are free and fair, and to declare the results, just to paraphrase those, the mandate. But as the fellow CEO has indicated, that particular task requires distinguished and accomplished young men and women, as this country's young men and women have showed. We as the Commission, we are proud once again to meet this mandate. And by declaring the national and provincial elections 2019 to be free and fair, and to announce the results of those elections within the 3 days that we finished polling. We can do this because of the legal framework, including the Constitution and the electoral legislation, along with the systems, the processes under which elections are conducted, and provides an electoral architecture based on transparency and inclusivity to ensure credible and elections with integrity. We can do this because of the 200,000 or so fellow South Africans who volunteered and were staff members of the Commission, who made sure that they will not, the democracy dwindle on their watch. We can do this because the political parties who are our key stakeholders and very colorful and effervescent contestants to these elections, they share one thing, and that thing in common is a vision for a peaceful, prosperous, and a democratic country under the Constitution and the rule of law. Excuse me. We can do this because the people of South Africa continue also to believe in our democracy. They support the freedom of choice and the justice. Ladies and gentlemen, 14 days ago, South Africa celebrated the anniversary of our first democratic, free and fair elections. 25 years on, we can proudly say as a nation that we remain firmly rooted in the democratic ideals that we adopted in 1994. And our country remains a shining beacon of democracy and human rights for all. It is now my honor and a privilege to then do the easier part than our CEO had to do. It is to announce the results, and we'll start with in the province of the Eastern Cape. The following parties will be represented in the provincial legislature for the next 5 years. The African Transformation Movement with 1 seat, the Vryheid Front Plus with 1 seat, the United Democratic Movement with 2 seats, the Economic Freedom Fighters with 5 seats. The official opposition in the province is the Democratic Alliance with 10 seats. And finally, the majority party in the Eastern Cape is the African National Congress with 44 seats. In the province of the Free State, the following parties will be represented in the provincial legislature for the next 5 years. The Free 8 Plus with 1 seat, the Economic Freedom Fighters with 4 seats. The official opposition in the province is the Democratic Alliance with 6 seats. And the majority party in the Free State is the African National Congress with 19 seats. In the province of Gauteng, the following parties will be represented in the provincial legislature for the next 5 years. The African Christian Democratic Party with 1 seat, Inkatha Freedom Party with 1 seat, the Free 8 Front Plus with 3 seats, the Economic Freedom Fighters with 11 seats. The official opposition in the province is the Democratic Alliance with 20 seats. And the majority party in Gauteng is the African National Congress with 37 seats. In the province of KwaZulu-Natal, the following parties will be represented in the provincial legislature for the next 5 years. The African Transformation Movement with 1 seat, the African Christian Democratic Party with 1 seat, the Minority Front with 1 seat, the Economic Freedom Fighters with 8 seats, Democratic Alliance with 11 seats, and the official opposition in the province is Inkatha Freedom Party with 13 seats. And the majority party in KwaZulu-Natal, I haven't announced yet. It is the African National Congress with 44 seats. And the province of Limpopo, the following parties will be represented in the provincial legislature for the next 5 years. The Free 8 Front Plus with 1 seat, the Democratic Alliance with 3 seats, the official opposition in the province is the Economic Freedom Fighters with 7 seats. And the majority party in Limpopo is the African National Congress with 38 seats. In the province of Mpumalanga, the following parties will be represented in the provincial legislature for the next 5 years. The Free 8 Plus with 1, the Democratic Alliance with 3 seats, and the official opposition is the Economic Freedom Fighters with 4 seats. And the majority party in Mpumalanga is the African National Congress with 22 seats. In the province of the Northwest, the following parties will be represented in the provincial legislature for the next 5 years. The Free 8 Plus with 2 seats, the Democratic Alliance with 4 seats, the official opposition in the province is the Economic Freedom Fighters with 6 seats. And the majority party in Northwest is the African National Congress with 21 seats. And in the province of Northern Cape, the following parties will be represented in the legislature for the next 5 years. The Free 8 Front Plus with 1 seat, the Economic Freedom Fighters with 3 seats. The official opposition in the province is the Democratic Alliance with 8 seats. And the majority party in Northern Cape is the African National Congress with 18 seats. In the Western Cape, the following parties will be represented in the legislature for the next 5 years. Al-Jamaa with 1 seat, the Front Plus 1 seat, the African Christian Democratic Party with 1 seat, and Good with 1 seat, the Economic Freedom Fighters with 2 seats. The official opposition in the province is the African National Congress with 12 seats, and the majority party in Western Cape is the Democratic Alliance with 24 seats. Distinguished guests, fellow South African, despite the rapid growth in number of political parties contesting the national elections since 1994, the number of political parties represented in Parliament has remained fairly constant at around 13 political parties. From this year, despite the record number of 48 political parties contesting in this year's national elections and provincial elections, in the national election, voters will have 14 parties representing them. The following parties will be represented in the 6th National Assembly. Al-Jamaa with 1 seat, the Pan-Africanist Congress with 1 seat, the African Independent Congress with 2 seats, the African Transformation Movement with 2 seats, the Congress of the People with 2 seats, Good with 2 seats, the United Democratic Movement with 2 seats, the National Freedom Party with 2 seats, the African Christian Democratic Party with 4 seats, the Front Plus with 10 seats, Inkatha Freedom Party with 14 seats, and the Economic Freedom Fighters with 44 seats. The official opposition in the 6th Parliament will be the Democratic Alliance with 84 seats. And finally, distinguished guests and fellow South Africans, for the 6th time in 26th year in a row, the majority party in the National Assembly of South Africa will be the African National Congress with 230 seats. On behalf of the Electoral Commission, we congratulate all the parties and contestants who have won the representation in the National Assembly and provincial legislatures. We call on all the candidates who will soon take their oath of office to serve the people of South Africa with pride, with dignity, with integrity, and with accountability, for that is what our Constitution calls for and our people deserve. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to take this opportunity now to invite our Head of State, His Excellency, Mr. Ramaphosa, to come and address the nation.
Program Director, His Excellency, former President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Mr. Jakaya Kikwete, the Chairperson of the IEC, Mr. Glenn Mashinini, and Commissioners of the IEC, the Chief Electoral Officer, Mr. Saima Mabulo, leaders of political parties who are present here with us, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Baleka Mbete, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, ministers of our government at national level, premiers who are here with us, MECs who are here, and deputy ministers, ambassadors and high commissioners, and members of the diplomatic corps, members of the media, members and leaders of the Chapter 9 institutions, justices who are here with us tonight, fellow South Africans. 25 years ago, millions of our people exercised their democratic right for the first time to vote for the government of their choice. And in doing so, they set our country firmly on a path of freedom, democracy, and progress. The actions of the people who voted then in 1994 represented the fulfillment of a solemn pledge made decades before by the drafters of the iconic document, the Freedom Charter, which said, open quote, no government can justly claim authority unless it is based on the will of all the people, close quotes. That first vote was a tribute to the heroic struggles that were waged in our country by successive generations of gallant women and men, to the hardships they endured and to the sacrifices that they also made as they were prepared to suffer so that we can be free. Today, 25 years later, we are here at the invitation of the Independent Electoral Commission to witness the announcement of the official results, as we have, of the 6th democratic general election. Having observed millions of our people across the length and the breadth of our country, casting their votes patiently, enthusiastically, and peacefully 3 days ago, we now have a greater appreciation of what President Nelson Mandela meant during his inauguration on the 10th of May 1994, when he said, open quotes, let freedom reign. The sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement, close quotes. This election confirms that freedom and democracy does indeed reign in South Africa. And we are grateful for that. It gives us the assurance that our people are indeed the true custodians of our freedom and democracy. We pay tribute to the millions of our people who went to the polls to choose the public representatives who will champion their collective interests and aspirations and help them realize their shared dreams and common nationhood. Many of our people braved the rain, the cold, and various other weather elements, the wind included, to cast the ballots that will determine the future of our country. We just heard that many of them crossed rivers, swollen rivers at that, and climbed mountains and hills to go and cast their votes. And in doing so, they reaffirmed the vibrancy of our democracy in an environment of diverse opinions, where there was much contestation amongst various parties. After months of campaigning, where political leaders of all persuasions had their say, this week the people of South Africa have themselves had their say. We salute the elderly for coming out in their large numbers to vote as they have done in every election since 1994. We were deeply saddened by the passing away of two of our elderly compatriots at the voting stations on Wednesday. We send our sincere condolences to the families and friends of Ms. Susan Matuna from Van der Veilpark in Sedibeng and Mr. Dirk Henry Osher from Elanspoort in Tshwane. We must honor their memories by deepening our democratic future and culture, and also defending with all that we have the right to vote. We applaud the young people of our country, especially first-time voters, who participated in the elections and took responsibility for their future and that of our country. I was encouraged to observe the hive of activity on social networks where young people were talking to each other, texting each other, and encouraging each other to go and vote. That should be applauded. We should be pleased that young people are taking such a keen interest in the life of their country. We do, however, need to say we want that keen interest to keep growing, because many more young people are still outside the fold of voting activity, and we want them to participate even much more than those who participated now. Our people have spoken, and they have done so clearly and emphatically. They voted for a united South Africa in which all may realize their potential. They voted for a more equal society, free from poverty, hunger, and want. They have voted for a country that they would like to see at peace with itself, with its continent, and with the world at large. We thank the staff and the leadership of the Independent Electoral Commission, who have had very little sleep over the past few days. We applaud you and we thank you for the hard work that you've put in. We watched you on our screens, not every day, but every hour, every minute, and we kept wondering whether you will falter, whether you will weaken, or whether you will buckle under. We are grateful that you still remain standing. Thank you for serving our people with such great distinction. Often under difficult conditions, you conducted yourselves, both as a commission as well as the executive of the Independent Electoral Commission. You conducted yourself professionally, impartially, and with the dedication we have come to expect from this valuable institution. We pay tribute to the men and women of the South African Police Service and the South African National Defence Force for ensuring peace and stability during voting, and to the Home Affairs staff who ensured that as many voters as possible had their identity documents on election day. Thank you very much for all the hard work. I must put in a wonderful accolade for members of the police and the Home Affairs and indeed the Defence Force for after the floods that our country experienced, when we lost up to 70 people, many of the people who had lost their belongings, their homes, their houses, kept asking, President, will we still be able to vote? And we immediately said that yes, and we said the Home Affairs Office will be able to issue temporary IDs. I'm delighted to say that some of those people that I've been in touch with did testify to the fact that Home Affairs indeed, following those floods, did issue temporary ID documents that enabled them to vote. Thank you very much indeed. I also wish to extend my most sincere gratitude to the leaders and members of the various political parties that participated in the elections. In both your conduct and your words, you contributed significantly to the peace and calm which characterized the entire election season. Yes, there was a lot of contestation. There was a lot of exchange of wonderful words to each other, difficult words and harsh words to each other, but we were all in a contest. And I thank you for engaging in a most wonderful contest, and our people have now spoken, and all of us are called upon to accept the word and the will of our people irrevocably. I wish to thank all the observer teams, both local and international. And I want to thank the AU, African Union, for having requested President Kikwete to lead that team, and also for other entities like Aisha for having requested former President of Nigeria, President Goodluck Jonathan. President Kikwete, thank you very much for having come to our country to observe these elections. And thank you very much for the words that you pronounced. President Kikwete, who I saw earlier, said these elections were free and fair, but they were also legitimate. He added that adjective, and thank you very much for legitimizing our elections. I also wish to thank the media, which continues to play such a vital role in our democracy and which was so important in ensuring that South African people were well informed as they went to vote. The media continues to play a pivotal role in the life of our country, and we thank them dearly, and we know that many of them did not sleep for much of the time. You are now granted presidential permission to go and sleep. What happens hereafter doesn't really matter. You can go and have a holiday and sleep for a number of weeks. We will get on with the work. Leave it to us. Lastly, I wish to thank the religious leaders of our country, of all faiths, who prayed for a peaceful election. You kept praying as all of us as leaders of our various political parties crisscrossed the length and the breadth of our country. You kept telling us that you are praying for our elections. And I also want to thank our traditional leaders who, as various leaders went through the length and breadth of the country, you gave them passage to go into the villages, into the places where our people live. We thank you truly for all that. I salute each and every one of you, and I thank you for making it possible for this election to be a resounding expression of the will of the people of South Africa. We can declare with certainty that democracy has emerged victorious in our country. Our people have given all the leaders of this country a firm mandate to build a better South Africa for all. Let us now work together, black and white, men and women, young and old, to build a South Africa that truly belongs to all who live in it, as proclaimed by our forebears as they drafted the Freedom Charter. One South Africa which is united, which is non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous. Let freedom reign, and let democracy reign, and let the sun never set on so glorious a human achievement as the first democratically elected president of our country, Nelson Mandela, said. I thank you all.
Your Excellency, thank you very much. And may I please ask you to take your seats again. At this point in time, may I please call upon the chairperson once again of the Electoral Commission to come and perform a particular thing that he forgot to perform.
Thank you, Program Director. The Electoral Commission of South Africa wishes now to declare the elections to be free and fair. Thank you.
I think I would be acting out of character if I didn't ask you to clap again. Thank you very much, Chairperson. At this juncture, may I please invite the Vice Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Ms. Janet Love, to render the closing remarks, please.
Thank you, Dr. Masuku, fellow Commissioner and Program Director. Your Excellency, President of the Republic of South Africa, the Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa, fellow Commissioners from the Electoral Commission, honorable guests, and in particular, His Excellency, Mr. Kikwete, ministers, members of the executive who have helped us along the way, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to all of you again, but a particular thank you on behalf of the Electoral Commission to you all. As noted by the Chief Electoral Officer, elections are a collaborative endeavor. And when that final whirlwind takes hold, the job of the Commission and all of its staff who give of themselves unstintingly we can feel sometimes a little lonely. But as the results unfold and the will of the South African people begins to reveal itself on our leaderboards, then we can see that in our success, there are many who are part of the birth of a new era, a new 5 years. Tonight is a time for the Commission to also express our tributes to all who have worked with us to reinforce our democracy and to celebrate our country's 6 successful national and provincial elections. While we express a clear salute to the millions of South Africans who turned up to vote, there are also other role players whose essential presence make up the electoral music. We thank our former Parliament and chairpersons and members of Portfolio and Select Committee for their support and assistance throughout our preparations, and especially for expediting the passing of amendments to electoral laws which were so necessary for these elections. We also express our appreciation to the Minister of Home Affairs then and to the chairperson of what was the Interministerial Committee on Elections, Dr. Twele. Our special thanks again to the security agencies, including the South African Police Services, the State Security Agency, and the various security structures for their vital, indispensable role that they played in securing these elections. And I'd like you to all give them a round of applause. We express our thanks and gratitude to various ministers and government departments who have assisted us in a myriad of ways, including, as you've heard, our Department of Home Affairs, the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, our Department of International Relations and Cooperation. We thank all of you. We also want to express thanks to our longtime sponsors and strategic partners in the telecommunications sector, Telkom, for their ongoing support. It is hugely, hugely appreciated by everybody who has had the opportunity not just to be in this room, but to benefit from what this place has got to offer. Our special appreciation to the SABC for enabling us to communicate with and to share the unfolding of the process and the results with the world at large. To ESCOM for working with us to light the way of our democracy. We thank you. To Vodacom for your support in boosting coverage here and at the voting stations around the country, sometimes in the most remote places, to assist us in communications and transmissions of results. We thank you for helping us in these endeavors. I know that I'm speaking on behalf of the Commission as a whole when I say a special thanks to our Statistician General, our SG, Mr. Maluleke and his team from Stats SA for their immediate and unhesitating assistance that they provided to us in order to undertake additional assurance processes in the form of an independent sample study. Thank you, SG. Thank you. To the diplomatic corps and the international community for your support and involvement, including the EU and the European Centre for Electoral Support, which has sponsored our conflict mediation program, which was invaluable in so many areas of this election. Thank you again, thank you. To all of our observer missions, particularly those who have traveled, but equally those who have rooted themselves in every part of our country in local communities, our local observer missions, from the churches, from our foundations, from our civil society organizations, all of you, we really thank you and we value your counsel. We really appreciate your voluntary efforts, and we wish that you will join us along the journey of strengthening every part of this operation as we go forward. Thank you. To the CSIR, which also quickly and unhesitatingly responded to the call of our CEO to investigate and assess the indelible ink marker pens, and who has committed to working with us in the future to ensure huge improvements in this regard. To a number of our corporate sponsors, including Sasol and Uber, which provided free rides to voters, to famous brands that helped feed those volunteers that worked for long, long hours. We thank you, thank you, thank you. To members of civil society and the media, in particular, Media Monitoring Africa, SANEF, and the social media platforms, including Facebook and Twitter, for working alongside us to combat digital disinformation. We were a world starter in this as an electoral management body, and we are going to use these lessons to strengthen our capacity and to share our experience with the world. Thank you. Thank you for your assistance. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, let me thank key participants in our electoral symphony, the media, the commentators, many of the commentators, the analysts, and the bloggers. Thank you for the vital role that you play in informing the electorate, in performing a watchdog role, and for your independence, which is sometimes a little uncomfortable, and for your impartiality and your vigor in promoting democracy. We want to say to you all, without a free press, there can be no democracy, and we call on everybody to enforce that component that underpins our time of elections at all times, to defend our media. Thank you to all of you in the media. To the political parties, their leaders, candidates, and their party agents, thank you for cooperating, thank you for supporting, and thank you for assisting us and the nation towards the achievement of a successful process. We are immeasurably grateful to those of you who engaged in a respectful, open, candid manner in many bilateral and multilateral engagements before and during these elections. That kind of multi-party cooperation is at the heart of what makes our democracy possible. We thank you in the name of all who cherish democracy in our country. To our 190,000 volunteers, our wonderful electoral staff, and our capable and committed leadership of the Electoral Commission in the form of our CEO, our EXCO, our provincial electoral officers. There are no words that can express our gratitude. Thank you. We want you to know that we are awed by your commitment, your enthusiasm for elections, and democracy and your ability to rise to the occasion, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the challenges. I'm looking at many of you in front of me, and I am awed. Thank you to all of you. South Africa doesn't know how lucky they are to have you. Excuse me. And once again, to the voters and people of South Africa who continue to believe in democracy and continue to register and vote in elections in high numbers. We wish there were more of you. We want to work for more of you, but those who have turned out, we are hugely grateful. Without you and your participation, there can be no democracy. You are what is keeping the flame of freedom burning so brightly. Thank you all.
Thank you, Vice Chairperson. At this point in time, I am also going to ask the technology to cooperate with us just one last time whilst I feed your eyes. If you can please. Gentlemen, at that point, it is at this point that we rest the XA 2019 campaign. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience. May I please ask you to release Our Excellency, the President of South Africa first. If you are wearing a green armband on your hand, you will be escorted to the gala dinner. And for the rest of the room, thank you very much. Please rise and go up the stairs. And you are going to the dinner. Dinner is served. Have a good evening. Take care and goodbye.